recently had to refile a complaint from nearly 2 years ago. The village was right on top of things as usual as they crossed paths with a reply from the vendor. His reply stated that there wasn't enough information for them to respond to my complaint of a long-term conflict of interest. Really? I spoke at a board meeting where a court stenographer recorded my every word. I provided an explanation in writing to all members of the board. The story of resident Mark Parker giving a violation notice to the village was even published in the Daily News. Yet our village officials seem to have amnesia. You get a lot of violation notices from residents. Maybe mine was just lost in the pile. I'll read a little bit from this violation. I'll just skip to the fun parts. I, of course, cite the code that is being violated. And I do say that you are directed and ordered to terminate Ron Vendetti's employment as code enforcement officer in charge of with the appropriate 2,605 counts, which we'll have to add a couple hundred to that at this point, of the offense for each day that the offense has been ongoing, accepting subtraction for any days that Mr. Vendetti's employment was completely terminated by the village of Albion during the time period from July 28, 2004 until present and ongoing, and so on and so forth. I also ask him to pay restitution to pay his salary and benefits back. Go forward here. In the violation notice dated September 14, 2011, I informed the village of a violation of section 161-11, restriction on employees. The code describes a CEO or fire marshal not permitted to directly or indirectly be involved in the construction business, among other things. This is to prevent them from profiting from their position. Mr. Gavenda, towing the company line, states that Vendetti doesn't have a construction business. Fair enough. What does the rest of the code say? The code calls for 2 exceptions for someone in Vendetti's position owning property. Excuse me. He may own property for the employee's own personal use and occupancy, or he may own a building or structure over which the Village of Albion Bureau of Code Enforcement and Fire Prevention has no jurisdiction. Clearly, Vendetti and his family do not occupy the storefronts at 12-14 East Bank Street. But I think we can all agree that the property across the street is within the village limits and therefore under the jurisdiction of the Albion Bureau of Code Enforcement and Fire Prevention. Gavenda goes on to explain that Vendetti does not perform inspections on his own building. Therefore, there is no conflict of interest that can be claimed here. But I explained it. I thought those buildings were looking pretty shabby. Now, John, maybe you can help
ask the board, sir.
Oh. Well, I'll have to ask the board. Who does have jurisdiction over this property?
We're going to respond. If you're going to leave a copy of that, we're going to respond in writing.
Okay. John Gavender's letter says that a neighboring municipality does. It's interesting. I would think an engineer from an international company would be more appropriate. In the Daily News from September 15, 2011, Vendetti says Scott Bradshaw handles any code enforcement issues with the property. Does that contradict what Gavenda is telling us? Seems to. Not only is Bradshaw under the direct supervision of Vendetti, but the code directly states that the property cannot be under the fire marshal's jurisdiction. I've seen the conflict of interest part yet. Can you explain how Vendetti owning this property is legal? I'm sure the mayor looked into it before he reappointed him as codes officer. Gavenda states it was discussed at the July 14, 2004 meeting. Vendetti claims the board members allowed purchase of the property because it, quote, it doesn't interfere with his job. Linda's response to my FOIL request states that these conversations didn't exist. It must be really hard to get your story straight when you're engaged in a massive cover-up. The information concerning Vendetti's purchase of the building he legally is not allowed to own must have been lost in the abyss, along with all the pictures and video Vendetti takes when stalking my family on numerous occasions: May 9, 2011, July 14, 2011, July 25, 2011, July 27, 2011, July 28, 2011, and July 29, 2011. 11, just to name a few. He took pictures or video of my family. Yet the FOIA request revealed only 2 photographs, a close-up of mailboxes and another of letters on doors. What about every day in July and August of 2011 when Vendetti parked across the street or drove around the funeral home parking lot taking pictures of my family? He's been taking pictures of my family for 2.5 years. If he is investigating code issues, there would be evidence in the file, but there is none. If these pictures were taken for legitimate business reasons, there would be no reason to hide them. Have you seen the pictures, Mr. Mayor? I'm assuming the mayor has not seen them. They are not in the file from the property. Pictures and video were not the only documents missing from files during my viewing of recent FOIA requests. Vendetti must have been taking those videos of my family and my kids for his personal enjoyment. How much of Vendetti's time is being spent taking pictures of families with no legitimate purpose? That is time the village is paying for, and it needs to stop. The mayor and the board of trustees need to investigate this problem and take appropriate legal action. If you need a warrant to confiscate Vendetti's personal camera or computer, then so be it. It's a better use of Vendetta's time than these useless letters. It is your responsibility to aid the families of this village by prosecuting stalking, harassment, and other applicable charges revealed in this investigation. And while we're at it, where are the pictures you took of me, Mr. Miller? You took of me and my family? You don't recall?
I don't have any.
The ones that you took with your flip phone while you were driving your Dodge pickup truck on West Avenue? You just were pointing the phone at me? Well,
I
Linda
guess
said,
I might say so, I just told you I don't have it.
well, that's fine. Linda said they didn't exist either. I don't know why you were pointing the phone at me. Thank you.